Okay, so finally we're really getting rolling here, and today's 10/20/15. So we talked a little bit about this idea that biological change over time is evolution, and that what biological evolution, what the evidence all points to, because remember, in science, we have to look at physical evidence. We have to look at evidence. We can't, this is the tea kettle. We can only talk about the molecules of water moving faster. We can't talk about things that we don't have evidence for. So what the evidence points to is that the earliest living things on Earth were these single-celled organisms. They look a lot like modern what? This was a quiz question. Look a lot like modern bacteria. Yeah, they look very much like modern bacteria. So the way that it all lines up, if we line all living things up, there's this beautiful, it's called a phylogenetic tree of life. And it's like a family tree that you might have seen. Has anybody here ever done anything on Ancestry.com?
I tried, but they asked for credit card information.
Oh, well, yeah. That's where I stopped, too. So you may have seen a family tree someplace. Maybe you've got it in a family Bible. Maybe you've got it in a baby book someplace. I had a friend who made this beautiful poster for her son that was a family tree. A family tree shows who's related to who. Whoops. And it shows all the folks that go into somebody's sort of genetic lineage. And yes, I realize that my little people have no legs. It's fine. Thank you. And this is all that a phylogenetic tree is. It's just showing a set of relationships. But we're not showing individuals here, we're showing species. So that early common ancestor, that bacteria-looking thing, would be way down here. And then we have some minor changes, and we end up with two things that are similar, but not quite identical anymore. And then again, up here, we have another split, and we end up with two more things that are similar, but not quite identical anymore. And that goes back to, I'll just plop a picture right on top of here, this. Oh yeah, that is one thing in Doceri. All of the pictures are always on the top layer. So, you know, that goes back to this idea. So these organisms that are similar but not quite identical anymore end up on either side of that split. So this entire group of things here are all different kinds of bacteria. They're all really similar to one another. But they're not identical. They have slight differences in the way they move, or in their shape, or in their surfaces. There are differences that are enough of a difference to classify them as different species. But they all started out the same. So back here, that's one species. And by the time we get to here, we've split, and we have two things that can no longer reproduce together. That's kind of the definition of species. This entire middle group, I'll do that, they're called archaea. And they're sometimes called archaebacteria, so we'll write that. And if you or I looked at an archaebacteria, we would not be able to tell the difference between anything over in this part and anything over there. To you or I, to the untrained eye, they look like just more bacteria. So, what are you starting to see here? What's the most numerous things on the planet? Bacteria and things that look like bacteria. Yeah. There are far more bacteria than there are anything else. You realize that there are more bacteria in this room than there are humans, right? You realize that there are more bacterial cells in and on your body than your own cells? Now you do. You're like a little planet all to yourself, and the bacteria are living on your surface. You think you're a sentient being. You think you're in charge, but you're way outnumbered. Way outnumbered. And there's a lot of good evidence that all those bacteria that are in and on you control you in ways that we don't understand yet. There's a lot of work being done about bacterial communities and cancer, bacterial communities and brain chemistry. Crazy stuff. So, when do we get to the humans, Moser? When do we get to the peoples? Well, this group over here, all of these things, eukarya, that includes animals right here, and it also includes fungi and plants. These guys are all really pretty small. These are all pretty small. But we have a lot in common with all of these things. We have stuff in common with a mushroom? Yep, you do. You have stuff in common with a banana. You have stuff in common with a rabbit. You have stuff in common with an earthworm. You're all eukaryotes. So this, okay, we'll pick it up tomorrow.